Imagine for a moment that you're in a room filled with opportunities, paths leading to growth, fulfillment, and success. Each door represents a chance to unlock your potential, but standing before them, you feel hesitant. You wonder, how do I know if I'm ready? What if I choose the wrong path? This crossroads is where so many of us find ourselves in life. It's the space between wanting to take charge and fearing the consequences of doing so. This is where self-leadership begins, a journey of understanding yourself, embracing empowerment, and navigating life's challenges with intention and clarity. The concept of self-leadership is simple but profound. It's about leading yourself before expecting others to follow. It's about taking initiative, owning your decisions, and creating the environment you need to thrive. Let's explore this transformative idea through a story, a parable that will guide us to 3 essential tricks of self-leadership, helping you move from hesitation to action, from doubt to confidence. Meet Steve. Steve's a rising advertising executive who, on paper, seems to have it all. Ambition? Check. A solid career? Check. Yet, Steve feels stuck. After a disastrous client presentation, he's convinced he's failed. Sitting in a cafe, pen in hand, he begins drafting his resignation letter. As he's about to give up, a chance encounter changes everything. Kayla, a magician who exudes confidence and warmth, notices Steve's distress. Through her unique blend of storytelling and practical wisdom, Kayla introduces Steve to the magic of self-leadership. Self-leadership, as Kayla explains, isn't about waiting for others to empower you. It's about grabbing the reins of your life and leading yourself with purpose. Steve, like many of us, has fallen into the trap of external blame. He blames his boss for setting him up to fail, his team for being difficult, and his clients for being indecisive. Kayla's first lesson is simple yet profound. Empowerment is something someone gives you, but self-leadership is what you do to make it work. Imagine being handed a set of tools but never learning how to use them. That's what empowerment without self-leadership feels like. Kayla's words resonate deeply with Steve. She challenges him to take responsibility for his role in the situation. Instead of focusing on what others didn't do, she asks him to consider what he could have done differently. This shift from external blame to internal accountability is the first step in Steve's transformation. Now, think about your own life. How often do we hold ourselves back with assumed constraints, those invisible barriers we create based on past experiences or fears? Kayla calls this elephant thinking. Like a young elephant tethered by a chain, we grow up learning to believe we can't break free, even when the chain no longer holds us. These constraints are merely assumptions, yet they limit us in profound ways. Kayla challenges Steve to confront his assumed constraints. She hands him a business card and a pair of scissors, asking him to cut a hole large enough for his head to fit through. At first, Steve is skeptical. It seems impossible, but as Kayla encourages him to think differently, he begins to see the solution. With a few strategic cuts, the seemingly impossible becomes achievable. This exercise illustrates the first trick of self-leadership, challenging your assumptions. What limits are you placing on yourself? What beliefs need to be re-examined so you can move forward? Steve's journey continues as he learns about the power of clarity, the ability to diagnose your own needs and communicate them effectively. Too often, we expect others to know what we want or need without ever voicing it. But as Kayla points out, people are not mind readers. If you're not getting the support or resources you need, it's your responsibility to ask for them. This doesn't mean demanding or blaming. It means having a constructive conversation about what's required for success. For Steve, this means revisiting his failed project. Instead of seeing it as the end of the road, he begins to view it as a learning opportunity. He reflects on the missteps, acknowledging where he fell short in communicating with his team and client. He realizes that self-leadership is about more than taking responsibility. It's about creating solutions and driving results. This marks a turning point in Steve's journey. He's no longer a victim of circumstance, but an active participant in shaping his reality. Take a moment to reflect on your own experiences. Have there been times when you've hesitated to ask for what you need? Perhaps you assumed it was obvious or felt uncomfortable speaking up. Self-leadership challenges us to move past these fears and take proactive steps. It's not about being pushy or demanding. It's about owning your success and seeking the support necessary to achieve it. As Steve begins to embrace self-leadership, he discovers a newfound sense of power. But this power isn't about authority or control. It's about influence. Kayla introduces him to the concept of points of power, which go beyond traditional notions of hierarchy. Knowledge, personal relationships, and task expertise are all forms of power that can be leveraged to create impact. Steve realizes that while he may not have positional power within his organization, he possesses personal and knowledge power that can make a difference. This realization transforms how Steve approaches his work. He begins to see his team as partners rather than obstacles. By leveraging their strengths and fostering collaboration, he turns the once toxic environment into a space of creativity and mutual respect. This shift not only benefits Steve, but also inspires those around him to take ownership of their roles. Together, they achieve results that once seemed out of reach. Kayla's final lesson to Steve is about sustainability. Self-leadership isn't a one-time effort. It's a continuous process of reflection, adaptation, and growth. Steve learns to celebrate his successes while remaining open to feedback and improvement. He understands that self-leadership is a journey, not a destination. It's about showing up every day with intention, curiosity, and a willingness to learn. Let's pause here for a moment and think about the impact of these lessons on our own lives. If you found value in what we've explored so far, consider subscribing to this channel. By doing so, you'll not only support content that inspires and empowers, but also ensure you're part of a community that values growth and transformation. Your journey of self-leadership is ongoing, and we're here to walk alongside you. Steve's story didn't end with newfound clarity. It only began. With Kayla's guidance, he learned to see obstacles not as barriers, but as opportunities to innovate and grow. One of the most powerful lessons Steve embraced was the idea of proactive responsibility. This wasn't about taking control in a domineering way, but stepping up with confidence and offering solutions when problems arose. Instead of waiting for direction, Steve became the source of direction. Consider this for yourself. How often do you step back when you could step forward? Are there situations where your voice, your ideas, or your actions could lead to a better outcome? Self-leadership doesn't mean you always have the answers, but it does mean you're willing to find the man sometimes. That starts by simply showing up. The author of Self-Leadership and the 1-Minute Manager emphasizes the importance of situational awareness in this process. Not every challenge requires the same approach. Sometimes you need to take charge and lead. Other times, the best course of action is to listen, learn, and adapt. This flexibility is at the heart of self-leadership. It's about understanding the context of the moment and responding with wisdom and courage. Kayla's next exercise for Steve involved mapping out his strengths and areas of influence. She asked him to identify where he had the most control and where he could make the greatest impact. This wasn't about overstating his abilities, but rather focusing on what he could realistically achieve. By narrowing his focus, Steve avoided the overwhelm of trying to fix everything at once, and instead concentrated his efforts on areas where he could truly excel. One of the most profound shifts for Steve was realizing the importance of mindset. The way we think about our challenges directly influences how we approach them. If you believe you're stuck, you'll act stuck. But if you believe there's a way forward, even if it's not immediately clear, you'll start looking for solutions. This mindset shift is often the difference between success and failure. It's worth noting how the authors, Ken Blanchard, Susan Fowler, and Lawrence Hawkins, weave psychological principles into their teachings. By grounding self-leadership in practical examples and relatable stories, they make it accessible to anyone. Whether you're managing a team, running a household, or pursuing personal goals, the principles remain the same. Self-leadership is universal, and its impact extends to every aspect of life. As we reflect on Steve's journey, let's not forget the role of courage. Self-leadership requires the courage to confront your fears, challenge your assumptions, and step into the unknown. It's not about being fearless, but about acting in spite of your fears. Steve's transformation wasn't instantaneous. It was a series of small, deliberate steps, each one building on the last. This is how real change happens: gradually, persistently, and with intention. Let me leave you with this thought. Self-leadership is not just about achieving goals. It's about becoming the kind of person who can. It's about aligning your actions with your values, pursuing growth over comfort, and inspiring others through your example. As you continue your journey, remember that every step you take towards self-leadership is a step toward a more empowered, fulfilling life. The magic of self-leadership lies within you. Are you ready to believe in it? Let's begin.